our draft has begun. Let's get into things here.
No Trundle ban yet, Dimitri. Instead, it's the Poppy taken away.
Yeah, we were coming in, we're saying, okay, what were some champions we were thinking about? There's been no priority coming in from AL on things like Rumble. Wonder if that will be something we saw it from Flandre early on in the regular season. But Poppy, especially for Tarzan, has allowed for them to have so many open strategies. And Trundle, the big champion, we thought maybe was going to be a permaban all series long. Don't expect it to see it here in game number 1, but things like Yorick are still up and down on the table.
Yorick's a big champion between... Flandre is really the first person to really pick up and popularize Yorick in the LPL. And Bin was the one who really started to master it as well, but it's going to be the Gwen. Expecting maybe that Rumble that you teased, Dimitri, to come out now, as that's not a pick that Flandre and anyone's Legends have really put a lot of time into. And BLG with Bin, he has gone on paper talking about how much extra time he did really put into figuring out Rumble the past couple of years, and his Rumble definitely one to be feared now.
Well, they're taking away the Sejuani, which has been a very big champion for Beichuan here in the playoffs, and back when we saw him in the regular season. I wonder if this immediately opens up for our Yone, but we could expect for them to still be focusing, again, Yorick on the table, what we're expecting from Bin to be able to pick up, and especially for Bin, I think the big story that so far this split has been the fact that there are so many new champions. He has been someone who has historically been very slow to pick up these new champs, so we're getting more of that Rumble, so some pretty strong team fighting tools already here for BLG in those priority lanes.
Yeah, top lane looking very much like the split 1 meta, as some of those picks like the Yorick are not coming up just yet. I am surprised to see this Vi being hovered. I had imagined that with the Sejuani getting locked in, it would be an easy Trundle angle for somebody like Tarzan, but maybe they want a little bit more point-and-click CC, but they're still deciding what to go for here.
Not against Rumble. I do think that sometimes you need a few other picks to be out and fearless, and that's what BLG might be thinking too. As it was a pick that they banned all day yesterday against IG, so for me it made sense to maybe see it banned today, but instead the Poppy has been a really big pick for Tarzan. And Beichuan, who is 5-1, found his first loss on the Poppy in that first game yesterday where they first picked the Poppy and it didn't work out for BLG. So gonna be the Aurora, expecting the Yone to come on in, and that's gonna be the lock-in for Knight. Of course, got solo killed by Rookie early on yesterday, but had a great bounce back in that final game to wrap up the series.
Right, well, second phase of draft here, and we're seeing Yone Sejuani pair really great as we go on later into the game and talk about side laning. With Rumble, we are expecting for BLG to maybe play with a little bit more top priority, but the fact that 80 carries, this pool is about to get pinched, and we're thinking about Kaisa now gets taken off of the table. We had Varus and Kalista already gone. Yeah, Ezreal and Mef come to mind.
Jhin. For sure. Yeah, okay, Xayah taken away. I do feel like Elk has shown a lot of prowess on the Ezreal specifically. That Kaisa ban tells me that they're looking at Ezreal. Maybe you ban the Xayah first just to try and bait out one more like Ezreal or anti-Ezreal pick, right, in the bot lane.
Yep.
But I expect to see Ezreal banned here to wrap things up for anyone's Legend. And frankly, the other option is, of course, taking away the Alistar Elk, as Alistar has really proven to be that power pick support. That Leona ban, I feel like Alistar is the one pick that you can really blind. So I think there's a bit of a choice here between getting rid of those two champions. Okay.
So on 4 here, we were already talking about it with the Misfortune. We're expecting to maybe see a Jhin. I'm wondering if maybe, we start to kind of bait out different champions like the Ashe. We've really seen start to dip in priority, but with Kalista already being banned, maybe later on into the series here in Fearless, this does open up for you to be able to pull off this champion.
I like MF.
I was going to say, there's some really hard-hitting top sides of the map already, and it seems like BLG want to hammer home that aggression with a Lucian lock-in. Nami likely going to be one of those answers. I know we have seen Braum alongside it as well if they wanted a little bit more frontline, but looks like Elk's ready to go, be it on the aggressive end this time around.
It's a really low-range composition so far, Elk, as that's something that a Senna could really punish. There's not a ton of frontline for the Senna, but you got to believe this, if it does get locked in, it's paired up with something like a Nautilus, but of course, there's Corki as well to take advantage of a lot of short-range situations. That Gatling Gun, that Armor Shred could be really nice.
Yeah, the Rel's... This has to round it out, right? Like, just recognize that with BLG, they're going to be really susceptible to a lot of good crowd control. Okay, so we're getting Lucian, Braum, some good skirmishing coming out from our bottom lanes. This feels almost like the most prototypical BLG draft we could have gotten.
This is a good draft from BLG. I'm really surprised that anyone's Legend let this go. I don't love the Aurora and the Yone matchup just because the side lane gets so abysmal later on. And I do think that mid lane matchup is going to be really important for Shanks. You got to set that Yone behind so that Gwen can function in the side lane, because if Yone gets going, If he's able to rip through both the Aurora and the Gwen, things can get tricky. And that Sejuani Braum combo, I mean, just the Permafrost passive stacked up with the Winter's Bite, too, that's really tough to deal with the attack speed that comes out from a Yone and a Lucian as well. So I really like this Game 1 draft for BLG. I think they got everything they wanted.
Each team's got a scrappy top side. Each team's got a side laner, either on Knight or on Flandre, Gwen on the other side. So a lot to look forward to here in terms of clashing identities in game number 1 of our grand finals. Before we get into game, let's take one last look at our predictions across the board. Shout out to Prey, still our leading Discord member, and they've got anyone's Legends taking this one at 3-1, and it looks like we're all in the same boat here. We are all AL's favorite at this time around.
Our Deskers, except Lennon. Lennon's a true one. He knows. He's a real knower. We've got Nymera and Initialize on the BLG side.
Okay.
I don't know what Rafa and Miracle are doing, but props out to them.
I have BLG up 1-0 after this draft, frankly. I think that I don't know how you play around this like Sejuani, Yone with the Lucian Braum too. I think the Rel pick definitely dissuades Enchantresses, and you know that it's not going to be Lucian Alistar, right? So you don't have that answer, but Braum's fine. There will be a little bit of bot lane priority early on for the Corki Rel, but man, once Lucian Braum gets going, that's a really tough one to deal with.
One best of 5 remains. It's going to be BLG and anyone's Legends duking it out for that number 1 seed and, of course, for the glory. Let's do it here in the LPL Finals.
We're going to need the fan chant leaders to get in line.
Yeah, we got to sync up here. What's going on?
Oh, what's going on?
Utter chaos. We're just excited to be there, man.
Hey, the more voices, the merrier. Sometimes a little quiet in the Jayos in game number 1, but I'm glad to hear them. At least people want to, want to be a part of it at least at the start. As we're going to see relatively calm openings to this one. See Tarzan walking up to get a little bit of vision in that very standard area around the red side. Raptors going to spot out Beichuan once he completes his top side clear.
While we're pulling up the runes, I want to point your direction towards Bin, busting out some tech against the Gwen with the phase rush. So this is a little bit less lane dominant, as of course Comet can really help you with the lane, but this will help trying to escape maybe a Gwen Q or be able to space Gwen. Also can help you fight through an exhaust. Of course, you take exhaust to play when there is a overheat.
Man, Kael,
that's tough.
Anybody with that initial crash down, and that forces it Ignite out early.
Not great, but it's playable if you are AL. Again, this matchup early on, Rel has a lot of raw strength with that shield along with the Corki and the Gatling gun. So I do think there are ways for them to play around it, and frankly, Ignite for barrier that early is not all that bad. So Kael's going to be okay with the sustain, and it looks like both of our junglers are pathing down. So things do get chaotic down there. Opportunity for both teams to try and punish.
It does mean that, like you were saying, especially with the fact that we're already trading summoner spells, and with not only Kael's raw power with having the Rel, but the junglers coming down, I think this opens up a lot of opportunities to AL to try to disrupt some of BLG's early game plan here.
Like with the early game being so strong for BLG, or at least that's kind of our expectation, specifically with the Lucian lane, with just the Sejuani combined with the double melee topside, having the ability to match up a little bit is good. And it seems like Kael and Hope have neutralized that bot lane enough to keep things even in the HP bar side at the very least, as you see both junglers pathing down there. And we'll see if anybody wants to create some early action here, although I don't think it's going to be particularly easy. Let's take a look at some of the win-loss records here. Knight 7-1 on this Yone.
And in terms of how I expect some of these lanes to play out, of course, that Aurora versus the Yone early on, really advantageous for Aurora, but Yone can flip that pretty easily once he gets some items. Rumble needs a few levels to get going, but I think once he gets a 4 or 5, this wave's going to bounce back into the Gwen. Things will get a lot harder for Flandre. Is aggressive dash in from Elk, but they have the level advantage. Going to be okay there. On spot lane, it's been a little bit more priority for BLG than what I thought going in, but sometimes that's how the Braum can augment some of these matchups going up against the melee supports.
Ooh. Ward gets spotted here. They know Beichuan's down in the river. You see pings coming on over. Instead of even trying to match for what could be a potential dive on the bottom side, Tarzan's just completely ignoring this. He's going to go straight towards the top side. There's a single ward from Bin, so I wonder if we'll see something a little bit more creative from Tarzan to kind of get around this.
Well-timed ward from Bin. I don't think that Tarzan can play around it. If anything, I think that he can maybe look for the Raptor camp, which he's going to do here. See if he gets a timer, but not going to be the case, as Beichuan, I believe he did start with the red into the Krugs Raptors, so not going for the AoE clear. And both our junglers is going to be able to just farm up the second round of camps. Pretty quiet here early, guys.
Yay! Full clear regank! Yay! This is my favorite kind of game one for a grand finals. And he's literally just standing there waiting.
Now that's what we call oinking in the business right there. Quite literally on the Sejuani.
If I had my soul lanes, yeah. If my soul laners are Bin and Knight, I'm taking that stimulus check every day of the week.
You know, eventually that money's not gonna last for much longer. Soon Bin's gonna be like, yeah, that's mine. Those Krugs are mine, bro. Like, what are you doing here?
Well, I'm curious. I think that the next point of action we might have in this game is if we get a bot lane reset from either of these guys. I'm just wondering if we get any rotations coming out.
Nice combo. The barrier's right back off a cooldown, but he already has to flash away. As anyone's Legend with the wave pushing their way, end up getting the better end of the trade.
I mean, hell, this should just set up for a Kael and hope to take the recalls. On
still has his flash, the Unbreakable gonna do enough to block things off. Beichuan here, but it's not gonna be there in time. Another reset going to be imminent here for anyone's Legends bottom lane, unless Hope steps up and tries to greet the wave. Oh, he does not know Beichuan is here. Arctic Salt forward, but not gonna find any knockup.
I think there's a world where if Beichuan Q flashes, they can actually find that one, Dimitri.
Yeah, maybe. I think it's a little bit tough, but you would be willing to trade, like, hey, Beichuan's like, I'll drop Flash, and Hope has to use at least one of his summoner spells, right? Like, get something out of that. Just kind of looking at it, that's a 2-for-3 trade in terms of summoner spells in favor of AL, and now they can have pick of the litter as to which objective they want to play for.
Yeah, their first reset, so of course Vi with the denting blows can rip through those dragons. Curious if that's going to be the play here for Tarzan on the first one to get some information in the river. But it will be Hope that's going to be first to that bot lane. So yeah, I think there's a real angle here for anyone's Legends to just get this dragon uncontested because their lanes are better. Knight also with the reset. But showing some apprehension here. And BLG showing some willingness to fight. I will say fighting Braum Sejuani is scary. No flash.
That push here. Kael already gets stunned up, taken very low. The permafrost's going to land on top of him. And with that, it is Bilibili Gaming picking up first blood. And they're looking for more on. Flashes out of Tarzan, lands that Winter's Bite. 2 more auto attacks to get the stun, but they're not going to get there in time. Meanwhile, up on the top side of the map was the ultimate's blown, summoner spells blown. Flandre has one more proc and needlework to try to slow Bin down, but the Electro Harpoon's coming on top of him. They're going to follow up with Flash. Flandre is burning down at less than 200 HP. And now can he escape? Can he dodge away from it? Looks like he will survive as Beichuan now makes his way towards the dragon, but instead going to back away.
All right, big thing for me with that dragon, I don't like the way that anyone's Legends pulled that. Notice how Knight was coming out of base from mid. They should have played that dragon up towards the mid lane. Instead, they kind of got lazy with how they pulled it. Kael walked bot. They didn't have control over that section. I think if they picked the right quadrant to have the dragon on, could have been a lot more controlled. Didn't do that. Kael, of course, burned the flash for the trade to the lane. Didn't find any kills. Gets punished afterwards by the Sejuani Braum. And that first dragon goes over to BLG. I think it's a big deal for them because the Yone, Rumble, like the way these guys can play the side lane later on, and some of the scaling, I mean, they have more options to now drop the dragons and funnel that Yone if they want to in the mid game.
And look at how they've even set up the rest of the lanes. I mean, just because of the fact that we saw Hope actually overextend for that single wave and Beichuan showed, they were not able to get it set up in time and bring Hope over for the dragon fight. They're now in position to potentially start these grubs, but you look at where BLG are right now, I think you're going to try to take this. Elk's about to hit level 6. You're going to have all of this topside control, and while you're trading for plates, BLG can still grab these grubs and be in a good spot.
I do think it was a decent recovery from anyone's Legend. Like, they used the dragon tempo, and they put their bot lane top during that because they got the wave in. And again, like, Hope was in the bot lane, but again, they just didn't connect with how they played the dragon, right?
Yeah.
Which led to that desync and not bringing Hope in, as you called out. So, I think that the recovery, though, from anyone's Legend is pretty nice. And, of course, denying Yone any of these grubs and getting them for the Gwen would be valuable for AL throughout the game.
They're just forcing this, though. Like, Gwen just cut through mid lane. He's going to catch Elk before he gets here. They're just forcing.
I like this. I like this a lot.
He got there first, and that means that at least one of these grubs is going to go over towards anyone's Legend. Now, Beichuan is in the area, but still far away to get into range for that second grub, so it's going to be the victory secured here for AL, despite the potential tempo advantage on the map here for BLG.
I think it's well worth the waves being dropped by Flandre, by the way. This Gwen's going to slingshot back into this matchup in the mid game, so like picking up 3 grubs for your team. Again, any mistakes now that BLG makes, this is kind of the equivalent of 4 grubs from the past season, right? That's going to be a lot of pushing power coming out for Flandre and AL.
And not only that, but they also allowed for Hope to get a bunch of plates on that top side as well. And despite, you know, losing a little bit in that early
Good
game.
recovery.
Yeah, he's able to come back in here and now, you know, eventually get to the point where, I mean, he's been really good in this Corki all season long.
Ooh, they're pulling the bot lane over. Gwen has a flank.
Glacial Prison on to Tarzan, already at half HP. The Equalizer doing so much work to burn down the Vi, who's now forced to go forward, but a huge between worlds comes through from Shanks. But it's Tarzan going down first. Culling comes down. Elk is somehow still alive, but will finally get taken down by the needlework of Flandre. And now Anyone's Legends can bounce right back into this team fight, going 2 for 1 overall with the bot lane of BLG down.
And this is a massive win for AL because not only are they there to defend the camps, but look at what Hope is able to get on the top side of the map. They just pulled a TP from Knight. He's going to get nothing for this play aside from the mid wave.
And look, I know it looked goofy from Tarzan going back in, but he set up a 4-man between worlds at this point of the game for Shanks. Like, that's massive. This is where Aurora is really strong, much stronger than the Yone. As we're going to take a second look at this one. Again, we gave credit to Tarzan and Kael, their ability to play together. Tarzan gets caught. But even just buying this much time, again, Shanks is in a great position. The Equalizer is pretty much null with how Kael and Tarzan were able to play out. Yes, he goes down, but BLG, way too much of a commitment. This was one of the mistakes we saw from them in Game 1 against IG yesterday too, Elk. With just overcommitting for plays. I feel like this wasn't really their timer to fight and commit those TPs. Definitely an overcommit from them, and AL punished on the map.
They weren't thinking that maybe Flandre was going to come off. They did not have, you know, all the perfect information. This is something we've seen from BLG all season long. Them being willing to try to hands check a lot of their opponents. And honestly, a lot of the times you get away with that. When you have players like Bin and Knight and Elk, if they're performing on the day, they're going to be able to smack around a lot of their opponents. And that's just not something that they're kind of getting away with right here in this game. So for now, it's going to be BLG coming back to their lanes, redistributing their lane assignments right now. And we don't really have much to talk about except for a dragon in a minute's time.
I mean, you talk about how BLG hasn't been able to hands check so far against Anyone's Legends. A large credit to that is Shanks. You know, that was a huge ultimate that he had setting up that fight. Had a good performance in those upper finals as well, even against somebody like Knight. And, you know, this is a guy that really has stepped up and now back in his 2nd straight grand finals after he underperformed in the first one. Gonna try to have an opportunity to redeem himself a little bit here.
Yeah, I think he's trying to get some of that bad boy status going on as he's double masked up with the Haunting guys. Of course, utilizing the fact those passives are not unique. That will likely go into Leandri's and a Riftmaker. I will say I don't love the Riftmaker on Aurora, so I'm curious if he actually sits on it or will build it. But the Haunting guys in itself, pretty efficient item to pick up. And Shanks definitely going to be strong for this dragon fight that I feel like at the moment with the items that we have, there's no Bork on the Yone. There is an Essence Reaver on the Lucian, which matters a lot, but I think this is a fight that AL might want to take.
Most importantly, BLG here first to clear out some vision with it spawning. Now, Bin has his teleport, but so does Flandre, but right now it's the Rumble who has the advantage in terms of the wave. That means he could likely get there first.
He has the Andres
AL
right
are
now,
okay
too,
with giving this, though, right? Like,
yeah.
Do you really want to fight this? You have 3 grubs. There's still plates out on the map. Like, sure, you're giving over 2 dragons to BLG, but...
Can they stall? I'm kind of curious about that. Like, I feel like that's a decent option, too. No, like, sure. Rumble's waiting the TP, and I think that fighting Rumble at this point is really scary. Yeah, here comes Bin, Flandre, too. All right, here we go.
Going to be immediately matched. All right, well, we're going for it. Fight around that second dragon. Kael finds a 2-man Magnus Storm. Already locks down Elf and secures the feat support fair already for AL as they have regained control of the dragon pit, but the dragon does go Beichuan's way. His price, though, will be his life as Tarzan will shut him down. It's Hope picking up the gold. And despite the Drake going over to BLG, AL find a great engage back.
I almost want to see the setup for that again, because keep in mind, BLG, they cleared out that bot tri-brush, but it was Kael that went through BLG's own bot tri-brush to find that flank, that angle. Him and Shanks completely split the fight up at the start, and BLG, yes, to get the dragon, but lose out on some kills and that gold afterwards when the triple grubs out.
Oh my god. Well, you know, I said, hey, maybe you'd be willing to give up the dragon. They ended up following some parts of that. They got more plates. 3 plates split between Hope and Flandre there. That is massive amounts of gold. And yes, Shanks does have an advantage, but now we're going to be seeing Hope with a Trinity Force. This control ward is just blocking out all the vision. They only spot out Kael now. But it's too late. He's already flashed over the wall. This world champion is just too broken. And Shanks, yet again, with a Between the Worlds, just splits this fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good engage there from Kael, who's been one of our best supports in the LPL all season long. He was our first team support, I think 2 splits in a row. And this is a guy who didn't have a ton of success in the LCK, Cubby, but now making it over to the LPL, making a big name for himself.
I mean, when I was over there and stuck in the TV, I was lucky to see Prince and Kael and the Live Sandbox team. That was my favorite team. It was a stupid team in League of Legends. Dub was not the best top laner in the world, but, you know, they made it work. And Prince was an AD back then, was really, really good, but somewhat notorious for kind of bullying his supports and, you know, playing the way that he wants to play. Since Kael came over to the LPL, I think it took a little bit for him and Hope to kind of figure things out, but I really feel like pound for pound throughout both splits, he has been our strongest support in the league.
Shout out to Sandbox, now FearX, facility I'm in right now.
Let's go.
Nice, bro. Nice. Okay, we got to get one. We had to get one for the show. All right.
And I was also going to say, I think, Cubby, I walked through Low Park. I think I saw the TV that you were on. It was in, like, they renovated the carpet space a little bit, but I was like, that's for Cubby.
Did they put it in the closet? Oh, man.
I was going to actually say something that we actually have heard from Tabe talk about this team is that Kael, being one of the few Korean speakers on the roster, he's actually been leaning on Tarzan a little bit to kind of help him communicate with the rest of the team. And we're seeing this, I think, in-game. We talked about Tarzan and Kael being such an important duo for these guys. And really with Tarzan being able to tie, not only with his now really strong and profound Mandarin speaking skills, he has just been able to kind of lead this team to victory all season long.
Able to grab both sides of things, be that leader for the team. Back in the finals here for Tarzan, which I'm sure he has a little bit of PTSD, just all the memories of being in these finals and not being able to come out on top. Well, so far he's had himself a really good game, setting up some crucial engages that have led to some big carries. Off to early leads and a 1,500
another one, maybe.
here for AL. He's gonna make another return to the top side. Nice flash onto Bin, and the Rumble is shut down. Kill going over to Flandre.
I'm not sure why Knight's TPing to this. This is something that BLG kind of did yesterday against IG. I mean, you're opting into a 5v4 at best. Shanks has the option of the TP or not now. If they want to take this, Rift Herald's up. Looks like that's the focus for AL, and BLG opting into forcing a play, potentially down numbers here.
Oh, we're doing this. Okay, so now AL know. They're like, okay, they're going to try and overforce. BLG just have to watch. I don't know what happened. Maybe they got the love chair in the hotel. They're just watching these guys take everything in front of them and then losing everything out on the map.
Yeah, Beichuan kind of just chilling there for a little bit, but it was a really nice job from Kael to box him out, making sure that he was unable to get into that bid, and results in a free objective going back the way of AL, and that comes at the cost of Bin going down and Knight's TP.
Yeah, I mean, again, like BLG opting into those TPs, that feels like so late and disjointed from Knight. And you think of like what Yone wants to do. I mean, you might be okay dropping that Rift Herald to actually funnel gold into the Yone. Like, him being the menace of the side lane and taking the Gwen down later on is, I think, an important thing for BLG, because the Rumble can't match the Gwen later on. As Bin tried to find the Vi. The spider senses were tingling, but it was Tarzan who was using the jungle to his own advantage. And as you highlighted, has been a good start here for Tarzan Grapes. And again, that 6 finals loss streak, we really feel like this might be his best chance. As AL, the team that we're in the finals for both Split 1 and now, probably our most consistent performer, really, throughout the 2 splits that we think of the teams that we've had in the LPL.
Yeah.
And of course, Beichuan, and this is his first final and definitely has been a huge level up in terms of the pedigree of the team that he's on, the teams that he faces and the matches that they're in. So he has delivered so far, but going to be tough to do so against Tarzan. Been a great jungle in the league as this Dragon being off the race.
Got the better hand of the Drake so far. Gonna try to pick up that soul point for
Flandre.
BLG. In goes Tarzan, gonna be a flip. Flandre picks it up, and Knight's gonna go down. It's the wipe in the Drake pit for anyone's legends. They've already gotten 2. Bin's on the run, popping that scrap shield at half HP and has to flash away. AL find another fight, this time with the Dragon as their reward.
They're going to blow up this map now, and think what happens after this. They can take whatever objectives they want, and after they recall and spend all of their gold, there's going to be an Otacon spawning in a minute and a half. And we haven't really touched on too many items outside of that first couple of moments, but you look across, I mean, Shanks is about to finish 2. You're going to have Hope on 2 core as well. This is going to be a huge injection here, and the fact that they're able to stop the Dragon stacking of BLG just gives them time to play this game.
Flandre is TP diff too, so I mean they can go send him top lane if they really want to and try and stretch the map for a little bit, as he's gotten really far ahead. This is really nice from Flandre. He snuck in, man. The setups from BLG They really got out set up by IG in game 1 yesterday. And it feels like that's been the same case today in this game 1. When have they been able to get the jump with some of these plays, Dimitri? It just hasn't been the case. Anyone's Legends are the one that are controlling vision, dictating the terrain they're playing these fights around. The response from BLG just hasn't been there.
And that has been one of the big criticisms for this team, has just been the fact that even before the jungle swap, that this team just did not have great objective setups. They kind of, I think, relied on the fact that they would have winning lanes and move that into having priority. We're seeing it now. One of the greatest things that we've talked about for AL is the fact that this team is just one of the most well-coached teams. And that's always going to happen when we have a guy like Tabe at the helm.
It's really fun to listen to some of the conversations that he has. You know, at the show, he's done a bunch of interviews with Dom and the like. And I remember the one talking about like hope, like, yeah, we just stick on Jinx Game 5 and it ends up working out. Maybe a preview of what we're going to get later on in the series. One of the most legendary coaches now on a new team that, again, has not won a title so far. It's another thing that we have to bring up. We talked about Tarzan not having earned a title. Anyone's Legends looking for their first. They came as close as possible without getting it last time around, and they want that revenge here, and it's looking good for them so far.
I mean, the way they've done so, too, like this core of Shanks, Hope, and Kael, they've built really on their own, right? Kind of taking some pieces from WE, putting them together in the right spot, rounding it out with Flandre and Tarzan, really bringing that experience to the top side. Again, it has been a winning formula for this team. Just have to convert it now into a split win. Looks like it's looking pretty good for a game 1 win here. I will say with this game, if this game goes like uber late, I'm a little bit worried for what Yone, Lucian, Braum can do. I don't think that this one is completely done and dusted yet if you are BLG, but my biggest concern is kind of what you were pointing at, Alec, with this lead that anyone's Legend has. What can they do on the map? How much control can they find? And can BLG answer? Because that's been the big thing for me. They haven't been able to find the jump or really dictate engages on their own. And you can see AL, all this control they have around the Otacon. Flandre up top with a TP. Only Knight can match, and we'll see if they want to pull the trigger here.
I think we've seen bits and pieces of that from a player like On when he is, you know, using the Braum, but that's not typically a champion that we're going to be associating with primary engage, and especially with Beichuan, it feels like they have to be a 1-2 punch for this team to operate right now.
Oh, yeah.
So I think we're seeing a little bit of what happens in that draft. We're seeing a collection around this Otacon right now. Oh.
It's less so the engages for me, it's just the vision. Like we've seen Kael and AL play with vision so well. Even here, BLG, that part of the map is dark. They're assuming that they aren't on the Otacon right now with everyone showing in the lanes and Flandre having to clean up that top lane. So this isn't really AL's timer to hit this, but it might be their timer to actually go on Knight. Tarzan. Okay.
Right.
They forced Knight out. I mean, they could look hard bot now, too, if they want to.
Hope's about to hit tier sack, right? He's about to have Muramana.
Oh, they won Knight.
This guy's insane.
Oh, he Q3's backing. I have to use that Fate sealed out. That's a big cooldown that will no longer be at BLG Superstar's disposal, as they're still a lot of hovering around that Otacon right now.
A top outer is going to fall. Yep, Flandre takes it, but they could like start the Otacon and see if they can get Knight's TP out. This is a really tough map state for BLG. They don't have a lot of tempo anywhere. You can see Bin catching that mid wave -1. Top wave also -1. Bot lane's even, but Shanks is here. And he's playing cautiously as no one from BLG is showing. And yeah, his spidey senses are also tingling. He knows that BLG are going to be in the neighborhood.
Yeah, Shanks is the one play that BLG could go for if he steps too far, so nicely done from him to back away. It's going to be a reset coming through from Beichuan as well. As overall, anyone's Legends continuing to grow their lead. Over 4,000 gold at this point. However, On with the unstable spellboard, teleporting back in, trying to regain a little bit of control at the only area of the map where they've seemingly really focused their attention.
Dragon spawning back up real quick. Alec, are you surprised that there was no Otacon start there from AL? I'm a little bit surprised. I think they scaled decently. But
I think it's, I mean, yes, like, right, we were talking about it, like, you just pushed top lane, you just got Knight's ultimate. I think maybe there was an angle there, but you can kind of see that they were a little trepidatious about where exactly, and they hadn't been able to reset and get all their wards for Kael. So I think I can understand the caution from them. They recognize that this is a really tenuous game number 1.
I think that BLG's been... Oh, wait, we're going in.
Oh,
Kael!
3-man Magnet Storm, and already Beichuan's at half HP. Tarzan goes into the season assist, but he's stuck in a 1v3 until Flandre arrives. But is BLG pushing forward, and so far they've already taken one. On flashes in. Elk somehow survives until Hope flashes in and takes down the Valkyrie. Knight will fall. It's On the run, but he won't live for very much longer, as Flandre with the scissors is trying to hunt him down. He uses the stand beside me to go back to safety, but it's a 3-for-2 overall in favor of AL.
they're not even caring about the dragon. Let's just take Otacon, let's get our experience bonus and our kills afterwards. They're gonna shoot up into the lead right here. AL with another amazing find from Kael, and that vision that was lacking from them that we had noted earlier, BLG get immediately punished and snapped on.
And it was such a good engagement, Cubby. Like, how did BLG somehow like almost turn it around?
I mean, for the last 2 or 3 minutes, though, like leading up to this, it felt like BLG were just jailed to their tri-brush, right? And
yeah.
You know, I mean, we're going to get a second look here, as it was a decent start on the Shanks. Kael hit such a big one as Elk was coming in off the blast cone. I think that the equalizer actually got a lot of value here from Bin, which is what made it close. Shanks was stuck on it, the red carpet, thanks to a Knight finding a knock-up. But once Flandre connects, this Gwen's really big. I respect all the flashes being thrown into Hope, but he's able to flash out. Great exhaust from Flandre coming out to make sure that Knight falls. And Hope managed that situation quite well, too. So, again, that short-range Corki, like, this is a game where he doesn't really struggle with a lot of range. You can interact with everything on the map, and Hope's been pumping out the damage.
25-minute mark of this one. I mean, anyone's Legends, they've bounced back in the Dragon department. They've gotten 2. It seems like things are still moving in their direction. But now we see 2 items on Elk. He had a really good team fight that last time around. 2.5 on Bin, 2 full items on Knight. Could this be the moment that mid-game composition, that mid-game power spike has come in? Beichuan gonna look to try to find something onto Tarzan, but he already buffers the CC with that decent assist, staying alive for so long. Meanwhile, Kael will whip his ultimate onto the backside, but does still find the stun of the Q on the Elk, who's now 1v1 in Hope, and losing at that. But the equalizer comes down. Bin doing so much damage on the Corki, forced him out of the fight. Somehow On still survives, but Shanks will take him down. Now it's Knight and Beichuan on the run. Shanks is massive on this Aurora, level 15. Already procking that shield off a Knight, and in a 1v3 he will go down. It's the Shanks picking up another kill, and anyone's Legends picking up 3 more.
That almost felt like a desperation fight from BLG. They thought they had Tarzan caught, but that cease and assist to buffer the Fate Sealed was really prime. And Beichuan, that's a recall that you can't make, buddy, as he has been good for BLG to get here, but in the biggest match, it feels like Beichuan and An have really been gapped this game by Tarzan and Kael. Definitely something we felt like AL had an edge with that jungle support duo coming in. Something that Nymera talked a lot about on the desk, too, with Initialize. And it does feel like they've really got the best of them in this game 1.
Oh, yeah. It kind of has felt like it's a little all over the place, right? Like, obviously, we're talking about the jungle support, and we'll see that reflected in this clip. But Tarzan has played so well in this game number 1, which feels really nice to say, especially when you talk about his history that we had noted during the desk here. But this fight is so split. Tarzan lives for so long, and I mean, Hope is just able to survive as well. I mean, him and Flandre on one side.
Yeah, I thought Bin played that really well, actually, to even try and get Hope. The fact that Hope lived, that's kind of a stinker for BLG, as Bin did his damnedest to try and take down the marksman AL, but not to the case. Of course, Knight falls too. And yeah, you called it. Like, Tarzan, yes, he was caught, but I don't think he could have bought more time. We have action to the bottom left, Grapes.
Yeah, On tried to catch out Shanks, but now it's going to get punished. Here comes the Magnus Storm. It is just going to be the support for Bilibili going down as Shanks picks up yet another kill, and in goes Tarzan onto Beichuan again. The Equalizer going to try to space out the solo laners. The Blast Cone taken over by Tarzan is going to mean that the fight can continue underneath this tier 2 turret. Tarzan dashing forward, forcing Knight to pop that Fate Sealed, but now the target is out, and the Lucian is immediately shut down, and Bin is the last remaining survivor for your 2024 champions. Anyone's Legends might not even need the Baron to run away with this game number 1.
That's it. There's no equalizer on Bin. Anyone's Legend. What a performance by Kael. I think that's an easy MVP from me this game. Start to finish was fantastic on the Rel.
1 game down for your winners bracket winners, your underdogs potentially in terms of expectations from last year, and it was just an absolute clinic in that first game.
Yeah, Kael definitely, I think, deserves an MVP vote, and I love that we came out of the cams and we see right there immediately coming out from Shanks. He's like, okay, game 1's over, let's get back to work. He knows what happens in that first split, and he wants to make sure it comes to reality this time, picking up that trophy.
A good time. That was a really good game from Kael, and you know, him and Tarzan, those 2 players that we were kind of highlighting. One in terms of looking for their first championship, the other looking for, you know, their first championship out of, you know, not after being at a bunch of finals, I should say. You know, really stepping up. And when you look at the other side for Bilibili Gaming, I mean, there was good play from Elk. I think Bin played well on the Rumble, but Cubby, I'm looking at Knight on that Yone. Really didn't feel like he had an impact in that one.
I feel like that was more of a team decision. I was really surprised with how they were grouping so early. Like, you take away a lot of opportunity to actually get power into the Yone. And, man, I just can't give enough credit over to Kael and Tarzan. Like, the way they played out that duo, I thought they ran the map from start to finish was fantastic. How many instances did I feel like BLG actually had control of that game after the grubs were taken, Dimitri? I really didn't feel it.
Yeah, it was not great. Honestly, that's what you get for saying that they had a better draft. You're saying they were cashing in on that one.
True. Yeah, true. It was Kael diff, sadly, you know?
In terms of our predictions, we're all happy, but we all had this series being a little bit more competitive than that game number 1. So BLG have some work to do if they want to even things up in our split to grand finals. But that does it for us here on the caster desk for game 1. Let's send it on back to Bizel on the analyst desk.
Welcome back to the desk, everyone. What a game number 1. Gotta get a check-in with you guys. How are you feeling after that game number 1? AL? Getting silverware today or what?
I mean, it's a hell of a good early game. Every setup for every objective, the vision play was so much better. Anyone's Legend are our strategist team, and they showed exactly why. BLG, they never approached a fight in as well as AL did in that game.
Every dragon fight, Anyone's Legend still had wards, still had angle for Kael to go lurking for insane magnet storms. Flandre getting into the back of that dragon pit to steal away the soul point as well. How can you allow that to happen, BLG? On the other side, Anyone's Legend, they take those momentary advantages and blink and the gold lead's expanded by 2,000. The game is bloody well over.
Yeah, it's crazy how much momentum, how many, honestly, nice little plays in terms of mechanical outplays we saw that one from the side of AL as well. I know we were talking about Shanks a lot going into the series itself, and I think, you know, it's a pretty solid game number 1 from him as well. I want to get a check-in on some of those matchups that we were talking about, though, especially the Tarzan versus Beichuan matchup. How do we feel like Beichuan can actually get himself back into the rights here?
Well, I don't think this game was on Beichuan myself. Now, because I look at Elk doing absolutely nothing in the Lucian. This guy, when he fell behind the game, really struggled to do anything. Good for early few levels in lane, struggled to capitalize beyond that point. Bin's Rumble strikes again, not really impacting the game in the way that we wanted to. Knight losing the early lane, it was an overall team diff. Bin, that's just a couple of equalized damage. Look how low the team damage is from BLG.
Yeah.
How do you play around that as a jungler? Beichuan is not the guy who's meant to be bailing out losing lanes. He's meant to be leverage off of winning ones. They're not holding up their end of the bargain.
And
I'm just looking at those damage numbers, Sam.
brutal.
Oh, God.
Like, if you've got a Lucian and a Yone paired up with a Sejuani for the melee synergy, and you're doing less than 10k damage, that's like, what, a third of their opposite numbers? That's not good enough. I think a lot of this is also then based around things like the fact that we get plays like this one on screen where you overplay a little bit, and then you don't do your due diligence in terms of your vision setup, which is a team sport, guys. And then Anyone's Legend get to leverage off that. They have always been the masters of map movements, of using vision to get fantastic setups. That one play where Knight is forced to ult away under his own tier 2 because somehow we see Tarzan roaming up to wolves unspotted cannot happen. It's making BLG's life unplayable.
Yeah. I just think it's also just a little bit of a side factor of a lot of very powerful picks, I feel like, for at least the rosters that we do have, and I think, you know, it makes things get a little bit more interesting as we move forward. Did you feel that way at all, guys?
I'm trying to think about that. I'm not going to lie. I think you might need to repeat that statement because I was busy thinking about that game.
No, you're good. I find it interesting, some of the big picks that were already taken off the table, like especially like the Shanks Aurora and things like that, like what kind of pressure this kind of game gives the rest of the series itself, if it does even add any pressure in that way.
What it does is it opens up more tank top laners because Rumble and Gwen are gone. Those are 2 big ones. Now in terms of like your anti-tank picks, you have something more like, I mean, obviously the Trundle, which AL and BL, well, no, AL and IG have shown more, because of course IG went out with that pick. BLG were banning it a lot. I was surprised that they didn't ban it away in this first game, given how much it destroyed them the last time around. That's the kind of thing which you have to keep your mind on, because later into the series, stuff like Scion will still start to come around, and if you don't have a Gwen or a Rumble to impact them in that top side, potentially that can change the face of these drafts.
I think the other thing of this as well is you're looking at teams with a lot of big champion pools. Flandre has always been a bit of a chef on. Is someone who's playing Shen and Elise support still. Like, we have got players here who, when the meta picks start to dwindle, have still got aces in their sleeve. It's partly how they got here in the first place. And the power of Fearless gives you that option, particularly later on into drafts. But BLG probably need to get there first. And Anyone's Legend, if this first game is anything like the second, maybe we'll just not let them get there in the first place.
Yeah. And I know BLG, at least in a trend of their come up with Beichuan, they like to play decently fast. They like to have a little bit of momentum in the early games, the mid games. It feels like we aren't getting that necessary like clean angle that they always are looking for, especially in this one. And obviously, it's one game in a best of 5. There's a lot to go. And blue side is definitely a favorite for BLG, but it's really trying to figure out how to get the engine started is a lot of the trouble I see with BLG a lot of the time.
Yeah, and you can see them trying that this game. And in fact, this has been the case all of this year. It happened last split as well, where last year, when they went for that play around the Raptors where they tried to kill Tarzan, they would get the quick kill and they'd somehow turn it into a 3-for-0. Now they're doing it this year. The Braum Q misses, they don't get that passive on target, they don't get the quick kill, Tarzan ults around, and then suddenly Aurora's dunked them with a 4-man ultimate. That is the difference between BLG of this year and last year. They were always looking to thread the needle in the early skirmishes, and it just hasn't happened cleanly this time around. It wouldn't surprise me if Aurora gets the MVP. It's Kael.
He was pretty great. He was pretty great.
Like, I just saw like 3 or 4 4-man Aurora ults, and I thought, goddamn, that's a lot of damage. I thought this champion was meant to be useless. But yeah, BLG really falling prey to the clumped up engage of anyone's legend. When they went just a little too far, couldn't thread the needle.
Yeah, and I'll echo that as well, because actually for me, Kael was definitely up there as one of the MVP candidates. I think his rel is arguably his most like prolific champion. It's certainly the one that I think came over from LCK with a lot of like hype behind it. I've been chatting to Chronicler a bit this year, and he's been so excited about Kael still doing well. And like, we are seeing this guy develop into, I think, our best performing support. There's not really many other supports who've been up there. And on the other side, one of these great supports that is a bit more mercurial in the LPL, yes, but is really, really good, isn't quite at this level. And this support jungle that we were highlighting before the series, we were highlighting in game, we're going to highlight it again now, guys, are so damn dangerous, especially when you get the kind of vision control as Kael to find these insane flank angles and just cut BLG off at the knees.
Yeah, I think being able to see this moment and take advantage of it, that's a game number 1 in a first finals, right? Like that, they're at least like trying to get another finals under his belt, or his first finals victory.